Good morning, T24 mathematicians, for what may be the last video lesson that you are doing in T24 class, but only time will tell. Today's lesson, we only have 3 examples, and then you're going to get working. It is on what you are currently learning in math class, working with quadratics. We learned quadratic formula yesterday, and we've done transformations earlier in this unit. Example 1 and Example 2 are on transformations, so let's dig in. First of all, for review, we know what the parent function is. And since I'm writing in my workbook, you should be writing in yours. Parent function, we're active learners, is y equals x squared. That's just the basic normal parent function out of which all of the variations flow. It crosses through the origin and it's in the shape of a parabola. That's the parent function. So on example 1, we are given f of x, which is x minus 2 grouped together squared, and then g of x, which is x plus 5 grouped together squared. So they're showing us, they give us the graph in fact, that we have x plus 5. Now notice the plus 5 inside of the parentheses made it move from our origin over to the left 5. That is backwards from the way we normally think of it. Inside parentheses is opposite. And then we have a minus 2 over here, minus 2, which made it go to the right 2. So we know that whatever is shifted, and if you remember possibly the vertex form of quadratic formula, y is equal to a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. So what we're talking about in this problem is in the parentheses, so we are changing our h value. That makes us go to the left and to the right, whatever's inside the parentheses. If it goes right, that means it's negative, and if it goes left, that means it's positive. All right, so what is this question even asking? The graph of f of x is shifted to the right. Well, lucky us, it didn't even ask anything. Nope, it said how are they related. So we're going to say how far would we say that they are from each other. This one is over here at 2. This one's at negative 5. So how far total is it from negative 5 over to 2? Well, you'd have to take 5 units this way and then 2 more. So they are 7 units over. And you'll have to be careful. Number 2, example 2 will make this clear. You'd have to say it function f of x is 7 units. This one is f of x. 7 units to the right of g of x, or vice versa, 7 units to the left of f of x. All right, let's take a look at example 2. We notice on this problem that we're no longer dealing with what's inside of the parentheses. We're dealing with something changing at the end. So that's our k value. Do you remember what happens when we go up 3? My golly, I just told you. Up 3. Plus 3 is up 3. What is minus 1? Down 1. Hopefully you were intuitive enough to say. So the k value changes up and down. Positive to go up, negative to go down. So on this graph, remember on any question that you're given where they don't give a picture, it's always helpful to draw your own. This one is x squared plus 3, 1, 2, 3. That's where the vertex is going to go. Our second equation, g of x, is at negative 1, so it's down 1. There's our second parabola. So now we have an idea of what it is. So let's read our answer choices. It's 4 units to the left, f of x is. No, we did not move left or right. They weren't in the parentheses, so it's not A. 4 units to the right, not B. 4 units below or 4 units above. Now this is important, why we should label our graphs and understand which one's which. The f of x is the plus 3, so this one's f of x. And then the other one, minus 1, is the g of x. So this one says f of x, the top one, is 4 below. No, that's not correct. D is the correct answer. G of x, f of x is 4 above g of x. It's up. All right. So that is a review for transformations. In case you have problems below that deal with the A value, which we haven't talked about, we talked about the H, we talked about the K, but let's review real quick what the A changes. You should know this. Y is equal to, let's say I called it 2x squared. Since there's nothing added at the end, I'm not going to shift it up or down. Since there's nothing in parentheses, I'm not going to shift it left or right. We're only changing this. The bigger the number, the narrower your parabola becomes. If this had been y equals, let's change colors, y, well, I wanted to change colors, but not the entire page. All right, back to here. Y is equal to, let's say 4x squared. That makes it even narrower. The bigger the number, the narrower it gets, and you could probably intuit that if we make it smaller, like a fraction, y equals 1/2 x squared, it will obviously make it the opposite of narrower, wider, compressed. The smaller the fraction, the wider it gets. So that's what the A value changes. Does anyone remember the other thing that the A value can change? Once again, if you're one of those students just sitting there not thinking, then you are not learning. Try and answer the questions. The other thing it can change is if you make it negative. Let's say, for example, negative 2x squared. We know the 2 is going to make it narrow, but this negative does what to our parabola? If you said it points it downwards, you are correct. So it's going to be downward facing, narrow. What about y is equal to, let's change the color, negative 1/4 x squared. So it's negative, we know it's facing down, and 1/4 does what to it? Hopefully you said it makes it narrower. I mean wider, even wider than the original. All right, so there you have a review of all three of the things that can happen. The A makes it narrow. Let's use a different color there. Narrow or wide, or it makes it face downwards. That's all that it... There's a little parabola man. New mascot. Okay, last example, example 3. You know the quadratic formula. Your algebra teacher may have sang the song for you, the quadratic formula song, and in fact, if you are very nice to your current teacher in the classroom, maybe they will sing it to you as well. I will sing it one time as I write it, so that you should be, every time you say the quadratic formula, you need to think it in your head, say the song so that you remember it. You need to remember this when you are old. All right, x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I know, that was just beautiful. I'll have records coming out you can buy in the lobby. This 2 is obviously supposed to be a squared up top. And it tells you the key a, so our 4 is our a term. B goes here, and C is the ending term. Remember, if this 20 had been on this side of it, over here, we would have had to go plus 20 to bring it over. But in this case, we don't have to. It's already set up in the standard form, A, B, C form. All right, so let's go ahead and write our formula. X is equal to, b is here 11, so it's negative b plus or minus the square root. B squared is 11, 11 squared minus 4 times our a value. In this case, the a value is 4 times the c value. The c value is negative 20. It's important not to forget that negative there. All over 2, and our a term is 4 again. All right, so all we did was we took this equation, we plugged in b for where the b goes, a for where the a goes, and c where the c goes. At this point on the STAR test, you can type this entire thing into your calculator and get the answer. However, many times on the STAR test, they put it in simplified form, meaning they will only convert this stuff into one number and then leave everything else. For example, that 11 squared will say negative 11 plus or minus. I said squared and it shouldn't have been. Negative 11 plus or minus square root, and they're going to simplify this. So let's go ahead and just bring this over and simplify it. What's 11 squared? You could write it out if you don't know it, but it's 121. Now we have minus. What's 4 times 4? 16 times negative 20. All right, so at this point, since you don't have calculators, you're going to write that out by hand. 16 times 20. 16 times 20 is 320. And the important thing for you to realize is this is a negative 20. So 16 times negative 20 gives you a negative there. So it's 121 minus negative 320. What is minus negative? Two negatives make a positive. So it's really like we are adding those two terms. 121 plus 320. You can do that in your head, surely. $441. So all of that, we just simplified this chunk of letters and we found it's 441. So we'll just put it here, 441, all over. What is 2 times 4? 8. That's how the STAR test will many times leave the answer. Now, once again, I told you that if you type this into your calculator, which you don't have currently, that's why we're leaving it in the simplified form, it would give you the two answers. You'd have to type it once with plus and once with minus. But this is the answer that will be okay for your answers today. The main thing is, do you know how to plug the numbers in from the equation into the quadratic formula and then take it one step and solve what's under the radical? All right. At this point, you're going to continue working through the rest of the pages of this lesson. Have a good day.